What is up? You can see from the title, we are talking global takeover, doing deals internationally. I just got off a call on a deal that I'm trying to close in Peru, which will be my first deal there. So in South America, I've done a deal in Colombia. I've done a deal with somebody that was out of Argentina, Mexico, actually. I did a deal um, with a guy in Mexico. But the only true like offline deal on the ground was my first one, which was Medellin. Then I did a second just offline, great business in Medellin as well. So that was where I cut my teeth, and now about to close a deal in Lima, Peru. So I figured we'd talk a little bit just about doing deals in general and doing deals internationally more specifically. Because I think that number one, we're becoming a just global economy where everything is connected. But I think even bigger than that, it's just more people than ever want to go overseas and live overseas. So something like, when you look at people that are under 30, like over 50% want to live overseas at some point, and it's like more than ever before. And so it's become a big focus for us at Good Merger, as we're, for the first time have deals that people that are doing deals internationally. We had some people in our cohort last year that part of their business was traveling all over the world. And so, I think this is something that was kind of weird when I first closed my first deal, but now more and more people are open to doing deals internationally. Now, part of what can allow you to travel internationally is just doing an internet-based business. So that's always an option. And we have a lot of people that are doing those deals. But there's also a lot of offline deals that you can do that may even be based in the US that you can run internationally. So, I've had as many as 31 businesses at any given time. And a lot of, like me running those businesses was it being run in a way that they could be run remotely. And I learned my lesson early on of like, okay, I do not want to be stuck, landlocked, not able to move around because I've got a business that requires me to be there every day. And so even when I'm doing an international deal, I'm structuring that in a way that I'm not having to go in and check in, in the hotel deal. I don't have to go and make sure that people are getting checked in at the receptionist or that they're happy about the room and that kind of thing. And I encourage more deal makers to do deals and structure deals that way, because the whole point of this is doing things that are going to be a little bit more passive. I realize most people find themselves rooted in one place for most of their lives. And the biggest downside to that is they miss out on just a lot of vast opportunities that are everywhere. I was talking to a friend of mine that owns a business in Tennessee that does basically packaging and shipping and that kind of thing between Mexico and the U.S. of things that basically you can't ship in UPS. And that sounds terrible. Not those kinds of things, though. Not those kinds of things. There are some things that you can't ship through UPS that nobody should be shipping, but somehow they're definitely still getting over. And then there are things that just you can't ship through, like a car would be an example. So really great business. I'm trying to get her to expand that, and we're maybe doing some things, but that may be my second Mexico deal. So actually, it's funny. That makes me think of. I was just talking to Andrew on a deal. We've got this business that we're going to be helping somebody exit that's in Yuma or Arizona, and one of the things, it's like right on the line. And so, we had this listing a few years back that was a kind of retail establishment, and they basically reached out to sell their business and have us help them because people were popping up out of the ground, basically like digging holes and getting over into America. They must not got the memo that the gates are open. You can come in. Like, you ain't got to dig holes no more, dog. Biden got the gate completely open right now. So, yeah, I think that there's just all of these opportunities to expand your horizons. The average person, in the 50s, just like, I mean, they live their whole life in their little neighborhood. So for us, folks like us that are in private equity, I just see a very huge opening for some significant growth and diversification in your income stream. I should do a video a little bit later. Just, I think nobody's really talking about or paying attention to what's happening at a macro level, which I think is important, when it comes to the dollar and just some of these other things. Yeah, there's a lot to discuss there. And I think it does impact what we're going to be able to exit these businesses for and how you want to diversify. So, one of the trips that I was on recently, I had this really fascinating guy who I was sitting next to on the plane, and he had done an acquisition. And I was telling him about a speech that I had given in Colombia. And it was a group of folks that own businesses in Colombia. And what was interesting to me is that nobody sells their business. Like, everybody just closes their business down. So we're talking about what's happening with the baby boomers. Well, once you get overseas, it's like 10x what we're seeing. So you have more of those people that are exiting their business than ever before. And then, I'm sorry, they're exiting they're basically three ways to exit. So this is one of the things that we talk about for the folks in AHC. The first way that you're exiting for most people is it just goes out of business. And that's an exit for the seller because they had the business, now they exited out of it. The second way is passing it down to their heirs, and fewer heirs than ever before want to own their parents' business, because back in the old days, it was a great benefit for you to be able to take over your parents' business. Because, like, what were you going to do? Like, people didn't have any options as far as what they could do, and so you fast forward to today and kids have every option imaginable, and it's like, why would I just do this and I can do all these other things? So option two is there are very few of those, and fewer as we go along. And then three is obviously they sell the business. So when you go into overseas, most of these people are number one. Like, there's got a business and then they exit it. I've got a friend of mine in Thailand who opened up a restaurant, and it was that kind of situation. Now, I wasn't a fan of him opening a restaurant. It was just his dream. It's what he wanted to do. And it's cheap. It's very, very cheap to do things over there. But it's one of those things. It's not going to be a huge business. I also noticed there's a pretty well known in the expat community restaurant that a Black guy in Medellin had started, and I had a friend tell me he's like looking at exiting that. And so I think as more people are going to these places, there's just going to be these opportunities to buy and sell these deals. Number one, from expats and Americans that are starting businesses, but taking over some of these other businesses as well. Like my buddy in Thailand, he just did, because the other person had the business for years, left, had all the equipment, everything was in there, just went in and was able to take it over. And I was like, at the very least, do that. So, when you are meeting people like that, it's pretty cool to meet somebody who had done a deal, and, done it overseas, had realized, all right, there's between like what I'm able to get on this with just very little money, and coming in and adding technology to the business, adding marketing. A lot of these businesses do absolutely no marketing. And I think it's one of the overlooked opportunities as people are considering doing these deals. Now, the other part of this is that you do have to take into consideration is the lifestyle of someone who is doing deals internationally. Because I do think, especially if it's an offline business, you want to spend time in the place where you have businesses. So there was a time for me before it just got overrun with expats where I loved Colombia and spent a ton of time in Colombia. And so for me to have a hotel deal there, like that was just, it was great. And, it's been one of my best investments to boot. So I want it to make sense for like a place where I want to live, but I also want it to be a really great investment. Now, you often hear people that are basically lamenting, saying, all right, things aren't as good as they used to be in America. I've got to get out of here. And like, there's that aggressive aspect to this where people are like, oh, like, I hate what America's becoming. I got to leave. And most of the time, those people never do anything. I don't really come from that place. I just see it as there are all of these opportunities that are everywhere. And I want to be diversified. Like, I want to get some, like, some people are like obsessed with the dollar. It's like, hey, we got a bunch of debt. Like, the Chinese are in control of the dollar at the end of the day, which is just hilarious that people think like, oh, we like, oh, we could go to war with the Chinese. It's like we have to literally borrow from the Chinese to get what we need to go to war with them. And it's just not in their best interest to completely crash the dollar, which they could do if it just would be in their best interest. But just like you want to be diversified. So to have some income that's coming from these other currencies, like when I get income from those businesses, like it's in that currency. And most of the time, I am leaving that in the country as well. So there are all of these different things that come into play. Like I've got a interest bearing account in one country where just like the bank account is sort of, basically it's a CD, our equivalent of a CD, and it's making 14%. And so there's risk. There's, I'm not saying that that's a guarantee. There's risks associated with that. Not so much risk when it comes to the 14%, but there's risk when it comes to the currency. So, but I think people are missing out on the fact that right now we've got a bunch of risks associated with the inflation of the dollar. And so right now, really based on the dollar, that 14% has been closer to about 20%. Because their currency, which is basically a third world country, has been stronger than ours. And so that added kind of a boost to my ROI as we were doing taxes and all this stuff for 2023. So it can become really beautiful beyond even the acquisition or the deal that you do. Another benefit that I have loved and enjoyed is getting residency in different places. So, I lived in Colombia for a little while, and because of a couple of deals that I did, I had a resident, an investor. And so you get to spend more time in these countries, kind of build a lot of relationships and all of that. So I think part of this isn't just the diversification when it comes to your income. I think that's important as far as just having an investment portfolio that is diversified. I think the second part is diversity of income in different currencies. So having things where you're generating income and equity, because eventually I will exit those deals. And so you're building equity in different currencies. You've got income in those currencies as well. And then kind of the third thing is having ROI that a lot of times is going to beat the ROI in the US. A lot of times depends again on a lot of different factors. And again, I'm just not one of these anti-US guys. It's just I get the importance of diversification. But a lot of times you're going to get a great ROI on just things like CDs. It's interesting how few people invest in Asian stock markets. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Cool. Got to roll in 10. Um, so if you even take, for example, like the tech sector in Asia, it is really booming. There's just a ton of innovation that a lot of times if you're in a bubble, you're not in touch with on kind of the Western business sphere of things. So I think when you're stepping into some of these other markets, you see some trends that you can even, benefit from in the US, and be able to implement some seasoned strategies into businesses and other deals that you're doing that we're just not necessarily taking advantage of. There are some really, really smart people that are in these other regions all over the world. So bottom line is, I just want to encourage y'all to think about doing deals internationally, not putting all your eggs in one basket, mitigating risk related to economic downturns and things like political unrest. I think we take for granted the level of leaders and options that we have for leaders in the U.S. But it's things like political unrest, having unfavorable legislation come through. So there are a lot of those factors at play. So I think identifying some countries that you feel like, okay, they have some really favorable trends going on. They have a favorable business buying environment. Nobody's even thinking about selling their business. I think that's really the biggest benefit. Like, I talk about we've got a training coming up in the Patreon on like deal flow that can lead to zero. That's not even zero down, but just businesses for free, essentially. So the business isn't perfect. There's work to be done. It's kind of an ugly business, but you are getting it because the person is just leaving and walking out the door, and you can get those businesses for literally free. So I think that happens more overseas, where people they just don't have an environment where anybody is selling businesses. And this one of the coolest part of that speech I gave in Colombia is like one of the guys that reached out to me. He had a networking group of people that were basically entrepreneurs in Medellin. And so, I'd given a talk on acquisitions, and he hit me a few days later. It's like, okay, I've got these two people. They're members of my group, and one of them wants to exit their business. The other one wants to buy it. Like, can you talk through like how can we do this? And so that was just really cool because that is a win-win. Like the person that was going to start a business from scratch gets to avoid that nightmare trying to start a business from scratch. Like who does that madness? And then the person that is exiting the business, they end up doing just 100% financing because like they were going to walk away and close the business anyway. And so it is something that is just a win-win situation. So think about those deals. If you're not in the Patreon, come hang out with us. Patreon.com/HChapman. If you're not in actually HOCO, we got an amazing group, a little over 50 people that are in this cohort. It's not too late to get started. We're doing, it's going to be really amazing. The thing that I love is that, last year we had about 30, we've got close to 50 in this cohort. And what ends up happening is the bigger the group, the more deal flow that we're all generating together. And everybody has their specialist that's assigned to them. And so those specialists are working between the member generated deal flow to match that deal flow with the right person. So we're already seeing some cool things just a couple weeks in, which has been nice. All right, let's talk. We got a few questions came in here. Let's chat it up before I get out of here. Dr. Glux, what's up, homie? Thanks for popping in, sir. Let me know if you got connected with with Andrew. I know you were interested in joining us as a merger specialist. Sorry about my voice. I've been talking a lot today. Rich New Yorker, what's up, homie? I miss New York, man. I definitely miss New York. What do you think about Singapore? First of all, I love Singapore. And a big part of this, like, I only want to do deals somewhere where I'm going to enjoy spending time, like I mentioned. So, yeah, like Singapore is one of those places where I really love spending time. Now, here's the other part, though. I like to get a great deal, man. Like, I love going places where I feel like I'm getting my bang for my buck. And I love Singapore, but and it's not even like, like there are places that are expensive. I just feel like I don't get a good bang for my buck. Like even like Dubai, I feel like I get a better bang for my buck than Singapore. So very amazing country, some amazing business opportunities. And you might get, I haven't pursued deals there. The other thing I would just guesstimate networking and connecting with people there, you're gonna get a bit of a savvier business seller. I would be my guess. Not as many people walking away from their business because, and I think part of what the psychology is of the people that are walking away from their businesses is that they just feel like, okay, I'm in this poor country, there are other poor people, I don't really know if anybody's going to be able to afford this business, and that kind of thing. Singapore, they know it's plenty of people that got money. So that might change it, but I would be very curious, if you started to work a deal flow process, what kind of responses you got. But definitely a big fan of Singapore, just as far as living, and their president, their government is amazing. I'll just, man, if we could have had their government the last 10 years, there's no telling what a powerhouse the U.S. would be. They did an amazing job. Like Singapore was a swamp. It was just not the place that it is now. Not that long ago. Prince Lex, what's up? Says greetings, Ace. Thanks for popping in. Biggest manufacturer versus biggest retailer, and says, oh, he just came back. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. I guess he got cut off. Oh man, I appreciate that. Says great information. Certainly appreciate that. All right, Princess says, I think I read that the Asian population in the stock market, there is 7%, or like, are you saying only 7% of their population participate in the stock market? And then like even within Asia, there's a bunch of different markets. Yes, I 100% agree. A ton of potential in the Asian markets. And to talk a little bit about kind of the macro, what's happening is there's just more and more liquidity. Our man, Jerome Powell, he just releasing more liquidity into the market. And so that liquidity has to go somewhere. And it's not just going to stay in America. How do I join the group? So, to get a sneak peek at some things, you can feel free to go to patreon.com/Ace Chapman. That's the easiest way. Just like, $75, join, you get just a lot of, it's basically like a preview. You get a lot of stuff. And we have people that can do deals from that. Then, you can also, if you want to go directly to Acquisition Holdco, go to goodmerger.com and just put your information in there at goodmerger.com. Princess says, I actually do referrals for financing. For what type of financing? Like business financing? I read your book recommendation. Awesome, awesome. The Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? The latest one. That is a great one. Actually, that's a good thing. I got my 1 minute. I got to wrap up. So yes, definitely, that is a great book. Come hang out with us in the Patreon. Thank you all for popping in. Be sure to like. I didn't say that. Earlier. But yeah, be sure to like and look forward to any questions. All right. Love it. Love it. Juma Emmanuel says, hey, Shannon just joined. What did I miss? You're always like on it, man. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I guess yes was to the book. Awesome. Awesome. All right, everybody have a good night. And Jamal, you definitely check out the recording. Can't wait to see what your thoughts are in the comments. Have a good night, everybody.